Yeah, everybody moves to that road.
We're all friends.
There you go.
That's the one, yeah.
I could, but I really don't want to be.
Not.
I think of myself as Willie Tooch.
So,
we all know it's true.
I didn't pick up easels, but over the course of about 3-4 years, met you on Twitter. You very kindly answered my emails and wrote back to my tweets and stuff like that, and you accepted my money when I wanted your art. It worked out both ways. And what we've got here is we've got a page, pencils from issue 7, and then also the completed product, right? So I'm going to stand. Y'all can see this well enough, right? Yeah, we're good. We're good. All right. So I do want to ask, because we've got like 98s, we'll scroll through a little bit closer to 99, 2000. We have one page from the Coda in 06, right? This is the last time that Nat the Hat is on a printed page. The next time we see him, it's behind closed doors, and by God, we don't want to see what's going on with him and Elephant Head, or Wendy, excuse me. And then we got 2 pages from All-Star Section 8, which was just, the last book was just, the Superman book was incredible. So I did want to ask, because we've got all this, the comics market is different now than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. To just walk through really quickly, and has anything really changed with your style? I don't know if we can organize and put all 8 pages down at once. So let's try it right here.
Well, I mean, I'm always trying to draw to fit the mood of the story or the style or whatever the subject matter is of the story. So I'll change my art style, but also as I just moved along, I get bored easily. So I'm always experimenting and messing around, trying to change, make myself better, I suppose.
Okay.
I mean, I look at Hitman and I see all the flaws in it, and so it's just basically trying to improve my stuff.
Regretfully, I have just a bunch of Hitman for you to hyper-analyze here.
Well, it's fine. There's plenty that I think is all right about Hitman and the art that went on in it too. But yeah, it's just a matter of, it's just me working through and trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong, and I'm constantly going back and looking at my old artwork and just going, what is bad about this, and then trying to correct it. So I think now possibly I'm a much better artist than I was back then, and I guess that's any artist really. They want to, the terrible thing about being, I guess, any creative type, I suppose, be it a writer, an artist, or a musician, or whatever. You've got to hate what you do, or else you don't get any better. And it's so to improve, you've got to hate yourself and you've got to hate your own work. But anyway, maybe that's just me.
This is
I'm not Freudian about it at all. That's the way it is.
So what was telling me, you're one of the few artists that has multiple books out at the same time. Like, how do you find time to put so much work out?
Well, I used to produce a lot more than I do. Back when I was doing Hitman, I wasn't inking it. My inking takes much longer than my pencils.
Sure.
So I was doing 2.5 books a month. So I was back when I was like at my prime.
Man, really?
Yeah, 2.5 a month. Yeah.
I do like 20 pages a month now.
Well, no, I know.
I don't mean to be critical, I'm sorry.
No, well, maybe my work wasn't as good as people are now or what have you, but I was just young and full of vim and vigor. In my 20s, it was just like, whoa, drawing comics is fucking great. I'm going to draw as many as I can, and I'm going to have a blast doing it. So yeah, that's I was producing 2.5 a month. I generally was doing Hitman, and then in conjunction with it, I did Jenny Sparks, I think, for a bit.
That had something, that editorial came in and took out of the way, right?
Oh, sure, I mentioned that. Yeah, the first gay kiss in comics, I believe, or at least in mainstream comics. In the second issue of Jenny Sparks, Apollo and Midnighter appear, and just before they're going to go into battle, there's a panel where they kiss. And if you look at the issue, there's a funny shaped panel with the 2 figures at the bottom, and then the rest of the panel just goes up and fills this, and there's a sort of open, empty void above it, where they just extended the panel over the kiss, and just like erase the kiss, because Wildstorm has been bought by DC, and Paul Levitz just went, no homosexuality in DC Comics, please.
What year is this?
It was was in the 2000s.
I think it was 2000.
Was it? When the hell was it?
Was it one?
I think it was maybe pushing 01.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like that long ago. It's crazy.
Well, that's just 2016. It's 15 friggin' years ago.
And now they just had plenty of film it.
Well, yeah, I know, it's sort of, these banging guys, it's just left, right, and center. Comics is great.
And isn't that like when they reprinted The Demon?
Sure. The classic.
The joke that finally made it in that only took 20 years to tell.
That's right, the longest Shaggy Dogs joke ever, I guess. The whole point of Beethoven, the true demon guy, was of course so that Garth and I could have a masturbator joke. Because we're really big and mature and sensible and clever. And it's comics are for adults and grown-ups. So here's a wanking joke. And so Beethoven's in the comic, in the demon, all the way across through 20 issues, and in issue 60, he becomes the king of hell, and a double-page spread with all the demons in hell sort of raising their hands and chanting, "All hail the masturbator," double time, massive letters across it. And DC looked at it and went, "Hold on a second. You guys, I see what you're doing. See what you're up to." And we're just like, and then they changed it all hail King Beethoven, which and yeah. So, but that's censorship for you. It never works. So anyway, and then they finally came to reprint the Demon Trades last year. Was it last year?
Yeah, they were pretty late into last year, I think.
Sure. So Garth bought Scott Nabakin, who's the Cold Stone Master of Trade Paperbacking, is it's the best fucking rhyme. So how could they have picked Scott Nabakin, Trade Paperback? Of course. What a world. Anyway, yeah, so Garth bought Scott a very good bottle of scotch and said, "Can you get this changed back?" And Scott took it to Dan to Dale and said, "This was meant to be Master Base 4. Can we change that to Dan? Why did we ever not?" For God's sakes, what were we, prudes? So that got changed back. So cheers to Scott and Dan for wisely being sensible. And getting our masturbator reviews.
That's
back in print.
That's
like you demand.
I saw him yesterday randomly and he said, "Hey, I'm doing great. What joke should I ask him about? What story should I ask him about?" I can't tell a damn thing that shouldn't be related in public, but he did say that he did Superboy with you.
That's right. Dan and Jimmy wrote Superboy the last 20 issues or something like that.
Okay.
And I came on to draw it. I didn't even, Superboy was dead in the water by the time we took over, so we were just kind of sticking our finger in the dike as before the explosion. Superboy was kind of
I mean, completely accurate word choice there. Thanks to stop water from overflowing.
They do.
Yeah. My favorite color.
I realized what I did there.
Salvage it.
So, Spider-Man.
There's no problems there.
So, Spider-Man's your favorite comic character. You grew up with that when that was 4.
Absolutely.
And you and our mutual Belfast boyfriend did 3 issues of Tangled Web.
Yes.
And you kicked off that series.
Yes.
What was that like?
Well, since I've always loved Spidey, it was sort of a dream come true. Garth's not so keen on Spider-Man, admittedly, but so he writes Spidey okay. My problem, actually, I thought Tangled Web was fine. He did a great job on that. The Punisher series, the 5 issues that we did together, Confederacy of Dunces that had Spidey, Wolverine, Daredevil,
that was
versus
as subtle as.
Well, yeah, Garth's sometimes not known for subtlety, and but I mean, I just couldn't stand the way he wrote Spider-Man. I was just like, oh God, this is just terrible. Who is this Spider-Man? And I was talking to him when he had written the first issue or something. Spidey swings through a window, stands on the floor, and the Punishers put claymores under the floorboards, and Spider-Man's foot goes through a floorboard, and he's got his foot on a claymore. Yeah, and so he won't take his foot off because he's afraid of getting it blown off. And he just looked at he's got spider sense. He wouldn't have swung if there's a problem, he wouldn't have swung through the window. He would just rolled across the ceiling or something. And even if the claim, even if it got to that, he would know because the spider sense.
His floors. He's not a floor.
I know. He's often telling me. It's a big Lionel Richie fan. So I say that to Garth, and Garth goes, who cares? And he just goes, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he doesn't care. So I kind of drew those issues while sort of weeping about my childhood. So possibly, if you look at it, it's not my best book. Yeah, so which is a shame because I love Spider-Man, but that wasn't really Spider-Man.
So Dan Slott needs to reach out and grab you for an 8-page backup story or something like that here, so we can reclaim your Spidey honor.
That does be a really interesting point. So you don't have a lot of creative input in what the story is in something in a situation like that, because Garth is sort of running with it and doing his own thing. But you're writing Dread now.
No, I'm not writing Dread. I'm writing one issue.
One issue.
I'm writing one issue.
And this is the first thing you've ever written.
That's right.
So this
So it's going to be terrible.
can we?
As terrible. Come on. But what is it? How does it feel different to be like? Well, so in charge of it, like you think, hey, this is the character. This is how I want to show the character. This is what I want to do with it.
It's actually really.
And what do you think of Dread?
Well, I love Dread. I bought the very first issue of 2000 AD when it came out. Issue 1, I picked it up. It's Dread only appeared in issue 2, but I read 2000 AD up until I read the first 500 issues. Maybe my brother, my middle brother, he continued collecting it all the way up to about issue 1,500 or something like that. So I've read a lot of Dread. So I'm pretty sure I knew the character pretty well. And actually, I find it incredibly easy to write Dread. Just really enjoyable. I mean, he's not the most three-dimensional character anyway. He kind of sits there with a giant jaw and shoots people. But it's the Dread, the people around Dread, and the things going on around Dread that are the more interesting things. So, yeah, Dread was fun to do. And I'd like to do more. And IDW seemed happy with what I've done, so we'll see.
That's awesome. We'll see. You've worked for Dynamite, obviously Marvel and DC, Image. We haven't gotten to Mythic yet. I'm going to grab a volume of Mythic off the floor for this. IDW, Dark Horse with at least the one issue of Star Wars that you and Garth did, Trooper.
Yeah, we did one issue of Trooper, which was, I think, a pretty good Star Wars story. And then I did a couple other Star Wars tales with other people.
Okay.
Not with Garth.
When is it safe to? And I'm sorry, I didn't do my homework on this. Is it safe to classify 2000 AD in the same spectrum of Marvel and DC and Image? Like, is it more so a title or is it a brand? Like, what? The better question to ask. I'm sorry. When you did your first Judge Dredd story, because you're growing up overseas and all that, what 2000 AD meant to the scene? What did that mean to you?
Oh, well, I mean, he's one of the big influential characters. I mean, I think most British artists, certainly my generation and that previous generation, we all grew up working on 2000 AD, reading 2000 AD, and it's influenced our styles quite a lot, which is possibly why when Vertigo just stole everybody from the UK and took them over to DC, they wanted us because of the influence 2000 AD had in the writing style and the art styles. It was nothing that had been seen in the US, I don't think. There's a different sensibility. So, yeah, it's a massive influence. The whole, and Dredd is a huge character in the UK. He's a massive character and the biggest cultural influence, I think, in comics. No. Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah, Dredd's the biggest thing in British comics. No doubt about it.
Yeah. Do you see a difference in what the British audience is looking for in comics versus the American audience, or is that, or as an artist you're just drawing and you're drawing what you think things should look like? It doesn't matter, or do you tailor your art to different audiences?
Well, yeah, definitely. I tailor my art to different audiences. audiences are tailored to different stories and such like as well. But I think 2080's whole sensibility is very different well, up until recently at any rate, it's very different from the US. Though with the advent of sort of hardcore stories, a lot of the image stuff, I think that things like Tokyo Ghost or Jason Aaron stuff would fit quite nicely in 2080, I would imagine as well. Maybe a little bit sweary for 2000, but other than that, they fit right in quite nicely. So I think it's changed a bit, but certainly 2000 was quite a different sensibility with the American stuff. So, but everything's sort of homogenized now with the internet and the availability of artists and writers from everywhere in the world now. You don't have to live in America or the UK to work in comics. You can live wherever you want to, and so you've got a massive influx of different sensibilities and things into comics.
Does the audio part of it stand out?
It's definitely tougher to get into comics now because the competition's so goddamn good, especially as art-wise. I mean, if I'd been trying to break into comics now, as I was when I was in my 20s and I broke in, I don't think I'd have stood a chance. I think there's so much good talent. Sort of Eastern European guys like Issa Ribic, all those guys, you can just draw like other motherfuckers. That's just Ribic. Oh sure, I know he's got really well.
To tie into comic books, but like when you meet the man, he's
a point.
He's like the fucking love sausage from the boys.
Yes. Where do you think you go? No, he's well, if you've ever had Issa Ribic standing behind you and then his hands slide down the front of your shirt, sort of caress your nipples. His artwork takes on entirely.
Why am I crying?
Gosh, he's sad.
Speaking of total not creeping, Derek Robertson mentioned something about bathroom graffiti. And this wasn't in the final issue, or this wasn't in the final trade of Hitman, but it was in issue 60. Al, thank you for Hitman issue 60. I appreciate it. But yeah. So this is this is something you started doing nationwide.
Well, definitely as much as the nation as I could get to. Generally in the US when I was over, and it's got a ton of videos actually. I just took it on myself to every toilet that I ever went into, that I would bueno the toilet. So I would basically, the toilet seat was Bueno's mouth. I would put a mouth around the toilet seat. His nose would be on the front of the cistern, his eyes and hair would be sort of on the top. And so you'd come into the toilet and have a piss, and you'd be pissing in Bueno's mouth. But when I went to San Francisco, Garth and I were in San Francisco and we were hanging out with Derek, and we went to his pub that his wife worked in. Okay. She was one of the bartenders there, and they had the most bizarre toilet I've ever seen. It was basically about 25 feet long, just a narrow corridor. You walked in, there was this long, narrow corridor, and right at the end, there was just a single toilet. It was like some bay or something like that, sort of strange.
The Shining, right?
Yeah, that's right. You know that camera thing, that compression thing they do with the toilet coming towards you? So I went out the toilet, but I sort of drew big sets of arms coming out and all the way down the wall to a set of hands which reached down the wall. So you had Bueno's arms pulling you into the toilet. And so after I finished, I walked out with my usual satisfactory and a job well done sort of thing, and grabbed my pint. And Steve said, I'm off to the head. Steve walks in, Steve goes in and there's a bit of screaming. And he walks back out again and goes, John, did you do that? And I was like, yeah. And he said, yeah, you should be doing comics. So you should be just doing toilets. He's actually living in it. Oh, there's that. There's actually, yeah. So yeah, and I went on to do quite pretty much a graffiti party, and I did the toilet graffiti party at the end of San Diego, and then after I was in, Jim McCrea walked in after me, and he came back out again and went, who the hell did that to the toilet? So I got really carried away in there, and I was like, how did you meet Jim? And he was like, you're the best guy in the world.
And that totally inspired him when he drew that Lobo Hitman special.
Oh no, that's
Oh, that was Mickey.
that's Duke Mikey.
The other guy who starts with M-A-M. But,
There you go.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Guys, okay, we haven't talked about, well, we haven't talked about Mythic, and we are down to the last
Do we need to do
11
another?
minutes.
Yeah, we can do a little rap.
We can
do
power
it.
through
We need
these
to
if
get
you would
some-
like to right now, absolutely.
Oh, second. Look,
So we've got the Demon, issue 0. And
beginning of tomorrow.
I don't have the cert from the Heroes Edition, but you can go down.
No, how did that happen? It's huge.
See?
What is this like? You bought a bunch, huh?
We said we were big fans.
Hey, that is awesome.
Anyone wants to jump in, we're having raffles. There's more prizes. Anyone came in late,
This is
$5
all
for
going
the
to
ticket.
$5 a ticket.
This
Oh,
is
so all the money's going to Hero Initiative.
Yeah, this is here.
There you go. My pleasure. Do you want me to sign too?
Yeah.
Do we have the?
Thank you. Can.
And then actually, Patrice, why don't you get the next one, dude, and we'll auction off.
Let's do it, let's do it.
For tomorrow.
Next one is Hitman for tomorrow.
It's for Allison. I'm joking. It's for Elliot. Trubisky. There you go. It's all this stuff. Oh, joking. Can. Yeah, cool. Okay.
I assume you want to sign
There you go. No, pleasure. Thank you.
Thingy, yes.
What's this one for? Who's it?
Elliot.
We should continue talking.
Yeah. Apologies, we got into it. So Mythic, we haven't touched on Mythic, we got 10
I
minutes
love
left.
Mythic.
Mythic,
Beautiful.
is this your image debut?
Yes, absolutely. Phil Hester and I have worked together on 4 different books, all of which you will never have seen, except for Mythic, possibly. We did a thing called The Atheist. Has anybody ever read The Atheist? It was actually, well, there's a,
Hey,
much
very
appreciated. I think it's possibly Phil's best writing, The Atheist, and it's a great book. But that was published by Desperado Image, so that's maybe that was my image debut. But it really, circumstances conspired to make it very late between issues, so it didn't sell particularly well, which was a shame. It's a great story. And then we did a thing called War Paint for a British anthology book that was being published by a Croatian dude, and just the whole logistics and all that were just a complete nightmare and never came out very often. So that one went down the toilet. And we did a thing for David Lloyd's online only comic. Has anybody picked up Aces Weekly? Has anybody read Aces Weekly? It's an online only thing that David Lloyd does. Phil and I did a Dinosaurs versus Aliens story for that called Progenitor as well. But again, nobody bought that. so we didn't make too much money out of it. So yeah, so I basically when we got the Mythic, I thought, please let this one actually succeed so that Phil gets some money for once. So yeah, it seemed to do fine as well, but some circumstances.
The Nat in that book is amazing.
Cheers,
You
man.
have,
Thanks.
you have like crazy worm creatures with multiple jaws. I wonder what your nightmares must be like.
No, I don't have any nightmares. It's like people say, what the hell is Garth Ennis like when he comes up with all that shit? And I say, he's just this regular guy because he gets it all out on the page. You know, if he didn't, he'd probably be a fucking nightmare. But he's just this bloke. So yeah, and with Mythic, Phil and I just wanted to do our big Jack Kirby tribute type thing, where big crazy creatures, big massive situations, and just have fun. And also every issue we wanted Christ, I've never seen that in a comic before moving. So that was one of our sort of things. So we've got people tickling cow udders.
Just thinking about that scene.
Yeah, that was just an easy scene to draw. That's tricky. You know how hard it is to draw a person lying under a car tickling its udders? It's quite hard.
I've been very selfish up here, but we've got about 7 minutes.
Sure.
And I think it is completely fair at this point. If anyone has any questions they'd like to ask,
It's fun.
please go ahead, Stan. Eric, how are you?
I'm alright about that.
I'm good.
You're talking about bathroom graffiti. Who is Soapy Suds? Soapy Suds was
Oh,
here
sure.
every
Hey,
issue.
Soapy Suds. Actually, Soapy Suds is just a guy called Bill Simpson who now he worked in 2000 AD and is now the Game of Thrones storyboard artist. gave me the idea for it. I've known Will, he's a Belfast artist as well. I've known him 30 years. And Will used to put this regular graffiti on the walls in the background of Dread Universe, and I always liked that. I thought that's kind of cool because it builds up this sort of idea of a group or somebody, this specific person running around decorating stuff, and I really liked that idea, and I just came up with a stupid name, Soupy Suds, and started sticking them in everywhere in the background, and it's appeared in pretty much every comic I've drawn since Hitman, I think. I try to get Soupy Suds everywhere. And that's just not in the bathroom. so yeah, that was Will's influence on mine, just a name I came up with. So yeah, Soupy Suds is nothing else with that.
You do a lot of fun Easter eggs. I know you, Robert Bogo, and Jason Toro on background stuff. I think it's in All-Star Section 8 twice.
Is it?
I thought that was really
Oh yes, so it is. I'd forgotten.
Who's got the next question? I know I saw a couple hands up.
Anyone?
Sir?
Is that character Big Billy based on anyone?
Big Billy Butcher, is he? From The Boys?
Or it's in Dex? He's in Dex.
Oh yeah, Big Billy from Dix. Has anybody read Dix? Sorry, there's no way to say that, but it doesn't sound good. But that's the point, I suppose. Big Billy was just influenced by every asshole jock at school who would beat you up, I guess, really. He was just a big dumb fuck who we all hated, and that was basically Big Billy. And if you notice, Big Billy just gets completely, over the course of the issues he appears in, he just gets completely smashed to pieces by various horrible ways, up to getting his nuts put in a toaster and toasted. So, it's Is that what you did?
I turned around the breakdown of Section 8.
Sorry about that. So yeah, I guess Big Billy was just somebody we wanted to just crush to a pulp and then eventually kill in the most horrible way possible because he was represented everything we hated when we were back in school, I guess, that sort of thing.
Are those real words though? Like,
Pardon?
Are those real words like follow through and bog roll?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's day-to-day conversation in Belfast. Yeah, bog roll is just, well, that's the reason we got away with so much in stuff like The Demon, because
bog roll
and Jamrag, and Jamrag is basically, well, I'll let you figure it out. But the guys at DC have no idea what it was. And there was another bit where in issue 50 of The Demon, the boat sails into hell, and it sails through big strips of meat that are hanging down, and so it sails through the beefy curtains. Nobody at DC got that one. Got away. But yet they edited out King Masturbator. A bit too late there, boys. We already got away with a lot worse. Sorry about that.
We've got time for one more question.